Hello and welcome to Occult Priestess's Rokfin channel. It's good to see you guys there in the chat. And tonight we have a very special treat for you. I had an interview with Addy Adds, who's new to Rokfin, and I was very excited about it. And I think he's a great interviewer, and I had an excellent time. And I hope that you guys also enjoy this romp down the rabbit hole. And I'm going to be here in the chat with you. And so let's get started, kids. Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Occult Priestess live stream. And I want to thank you all for being here in the chats. And I did say chats plural because we have 2 channels going right now and probably Twitch. Rokfin, of course. We've got some Rokfinners in the hizzy. Already received a tip. Oh my goodness. So we're going to do a shout out here to Lori. Thank you so much. I've seen her in a lot of the chats and she's definitely participating and we appreciate that. And we've got, oh my gosh, Elf just showed up, Pat Breeze. We've got Chelsea. She said she'd be here. That's amazing. We were in chats earlier today. Eric Alexander, Pete Penn helped me with the sound. Speaking of sound, I forgot to set up my my sound basically. So I'm using my camera's microphone and I apologize. And that's why I'm kind of yelling at you right now. It's not Alex Jones. I'm not telling you about the reptiles. But that's actually my Jason Burmis Alex Jones. So we're going to scoot over here a little bit to YouTube, and we're going to say hello to Man Ray of Hope 23, and of course Soul Taker, who actually I love it when he's in the streams. So you guys, we did a big thing this week with Addy Adds, and you probably know him from his coverage of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, and he's a very serious customer. And we get into some serious talk here, but there's also some levity and just interesting things. So I think that he's a great interviewer, which is rare, believe it or not. So I'm going to put that up here. And you'll see that I've done an introduction that I made. It took me 2 days to make, and it's only like 2 minutes. So welcome to the club, man. This stuff's hard. And I'm going to be in the chat with you. And I thank you so much for being here with me this evening. Thank you. Occult Priestess out.
What is up, folks? This is Addy Adds. This is Public Intelligence, and we've got a great guest here today. I'm joined by Korinne Wilson, who is a documentary filmmaker, writer, Reiki master, video producer, professional psychic of over 28 years. And her documentary film, The Nightmare, was ranked by Rolling Stone as a top 25 must-see movie at Sundance 2015. She's also a host of the Cosmic Core podcast, and originally raised as Jehovah's Witness, and we're going to get into her background there. She's on Rokfin as well as YouTube, Twitter, and her website is occultpriestess.com, which is a moniker she goes by as well. So if people want to check those links, as well as her WordPress is in the show notes. And I want to thank you, Korinne, for joining me this evening.
Thank you, Addy. It's wonderful to be on PI. I'm very excited to be here. When you asked me to come on, all I said was LOL, yes.
Yeah, and I'm glad to have you. I like to ask people where they are from and if they have moved or traveled around, growing up or in their past, educational background, whatever you're comfortable with sharing as far as your past history, career history as well, past careers you've had, and how that's kind of all evolved into what you're doing today.
Great. Well, I need to make one tiny correction, is
Sure.
that I starred in the Nightmare documentary film.
Oh,
But
okay,
it was
okay.
directed by Rodney Asher, who many of your
Okay.
audience will know. He's a cult filmmaker. So I grew up and was raised in Ohio. So I'm an Ohio girl. I moved to Florida for a little bit. I was raised Jehovah's Witness by most of my family, but my mother was in and out. So we were in and out, as you see. But there's a lot of studying in that religion, a lot of discipline, study, kind of militant. Actually, it's a cult, okay? But let's just say behavior-wise, those who don't understand cults, it was kind of militant. And it was also, there was a lot of I learned so much socially as far as snubbing people because they're not doing what they're told to do, basically by the authorities, by the powers that be. And that was my first inkling into conspiracy world. In fact, the Jehovah's Witnesses, who were probably made by the New World Order, preached that if you weren't their religion, then you were worshiping Satan. And many other things like that, which made me feel that conspiracy feeling, whatever that is, but I felt it. And as a young child, even in the crib, I remember having something called sleep paralysis, which is a scientific term, but we used to call it old hag before science was around. And that was basically the door to hell open in my dream time. In fact, I was recently given a quote from Rudolf Steiner that said, the moment we close our eyes, we confront our dead, and the moment we open them too. Like in the between time is what he's talking about. We call it the twilight, and that's when you confront the dead. Well, that's how dimensions work. And I won't get into too much of there, but I'm just saying I was haunted really bad by an ancestor or several. And so I've counseled people most of my life. I started counseling at age 14. I was a professional by age 16. And when I say counseling, I mean reading tarot cards for my peers and my mom and, just everybody I could. And so I went professional, and going professional meant working in a nightclub called The Warehouse at 1313 Vine Street, downtown Cincinnati, as a teenager, and getting to know my peers on a deeper level, and also getting to know myself on a deeper level. I was committing to Wicca and paganism and learning about the gods and goddesses and my purpose in this world and what my talents were. And I think it's something everybody needs to go through at that young age, not necessarily religion or spirituality, but who am I and what am I doing here? And these were how I got my answers. I was turned on to Carl Jung very young. I love Carl Jung because he's easy for me. I think that he speaks straight to my soul. So then we go forward to around I was doing psychic fairs and being a regular psychic, like you do gigs and everything. But around age 23, I was introduced to my guru, Sri Mama Devi, and her Christian name is Maria Rose. And that is of the Karma Kagyu lineage of Tibetan Buddhism. So that's what really just changed everything for me, because I found out how selfish I was, how I had a horrible person in my head. It wasn't just my mom or, parents or society. I was negative in my head. And so Guru does guru tricks, and she gave me the lesson of undertake the practice of not saying I for 1 week. And of course, it's a practice, and you try. And in that trying, I found that voice in my head, and I was able to isolate it and pigeonhole it and say, what are you doing in there? And there's another great quote from a Swiss alchemist, and he said, Heracles, I don't remember his name, but he said that I got into meditation because I was inhibited. Turns out I was inhabited. So I had a lot to clear, especially from a negative child, really bad childhood. I was physically abused. I wasn't sexually abused, but obviously what brings me into understanding what you've kind of gone through and just all the true crime and dark knowledge that people have that study these topics, like Ghislaine Maxwell, or satanic ritual abuse, which is where I first cut my teeth. MK Ultra, all of that, it's all part of the same ball of wax. And I hope that we can all agree upon that, and that these are just different forms of what I call evil. So as I matured, I had what we call, I'm not going to explain it much, but I had what we call Kundalini awakenings, which for the layman, it looks like I took heroic doses of a psychedelic and am out of my mind. But this literally happens without any plant medicine whatsoever, because it's my third eye. The thing that the plant turns on in people is the third eye, and mine doesn't need that. So I'm very unique in that way that I've seen. I've never met anyone like me. And so I'm a 24/7 visionary channel, and I just try to live a really pure, loving, clean, moral, just life as I help others do the same. Okay.
Excellent. That's great. And before you got to what you're doing, today, as far as career, I would like to know if what past careers you may have had. And before we get there, I wanted to ask why Jung was such a big influence on you. Like, were there certain ideas that really resonated, or what were those?
It was like he talked me through the basics of spirituality like a coach. He said, okay, number one, is there a God? I'm like, crap, I really don't know how I'm going to answer that question. So it took months and months of, is there a God? Is there a God? And just lots of thought, because I was in my thinky brain as a young person. So it was all very logical, and how can you prove it and all of that. And the answers that came as I meditated, and as I reached out to my God parents, like I saw them as a God and Goddess, Lord and Lady, as I reached out to them and I heard back from them, I was like, oh, okay. And so the answers basically came from upstairs, I call it. So that's what he did. He paced me through it. He's like, okay, you have something in you called an animus, which is your masculine side of your personality. I'm like, really? There's a dude in there? And he's like, yeah. And I was 17, 18, and I loved cross-dressers. I loved transgenderism. I loved it as a fashion, as an art, and as an expression of the soul, which is probably because shamanic, it's probably past life stuff. And I love men in dresses because of shamans, but also gender bending and all of that because, well, my spirit guide is named Hermes Trismegistus, and Hermes Aphrodite, hermaphrodite. Okay, so gender play is just fun for me. It's like a childlike fun. It's not sexual. It might have been at one time, not so much anymore. So Jung and Laurie Cabot is a witch. She writes books. She also had a book on how to meet your animus, how to go into meditation and meet it. And so I've done a whole series on this, the Animus series, and it's how to meet your inner other and clean them up, because they're probably a sloppy, horrible, drug addict, crazy person. And so you have to not only get a hold of what we know John Bradshaw coined the inner child and love them, you also have to find your inner other, masculine or feminine, and that's the anima or the animus. So that's a little bit about Jung there, but I love him to death.
Awesome. Great stuff there. And then, past careers. And, was it something you always wanted to do, or did you fall into it, or was it maybe in the middle a little bit?
Interesting. Well, yeah, I fell into babysitting. And that was, I couldn't quite understand, didn't get it. I didn't get babysitting very well. And then I felt like I needed to work for myself. And that's what babysitting was all about, is working for myself. And then I was a telemarketer who also made her own hours, right? I'd never worked for the man on a regular schedule or regular taxes. I always felt like I was never part of the system. And I'm sure part of that had to come from Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, calling this the beast system and everything, and like, don't go to college and don't do well because, and again, keep you poor. That was the point, really. I figured it out. But also it kept me away from academia. It kept me away from places where I would have been brainwashed and had a lot of problems. My mother was a very independent cosmetologist, and I followed that. She was a very good businesswoman. So I knew I was here to help people. So I had to get out of myself to be able to do that. And that was at 16, 17, when I first started working at the warehouse as a tarot reader. But between there, I did telemarketing. And that's really it. I didn't have a big otherwise career. Mm-hmm. Sure. I've pretty much always done this. That's 30 years, dude. I'm not a spring chicken anymore.
What was that first job like when you were 16, 17? And how did that come about, if you remember?
Yeah, I was reading tarot cards since I was like 14. Mrs. Wright gave me my first deck, Mrs. Wright, haha. And so I was at the club that we like to go to, the club, right? It was the one, like any other club paled in comparison. And there was no liquor license. It was still like really fun, like a teenage dream come true. All the best music, darkness, and you get to dress however you want. So it was really theatrical and amazing. And my boyfriend at the time said, I think that you should ask the owner if you can read tarot cards here. And I was like, oh, and that's it. Boom. That was it. I had the job. And I was the first tarot card reader at a nightclub that I know of. I'm sure there have been some I heard like in California, but in Ohio, I'm not sure about that.
Wow. Yeah, I could.
Innovation.
Yeah, you know, there's definitely a cultural difference between the Midwest, even state to state, but certainly compared to the West Coast. Yeah, it's something I wanted to ask too, because the video we saw, who is the artist on that? And then I wanted to ask you about your video production process, because you do a lot of things, and hopefully we'll touch base on all of them tonight. But yeah, to start with your the video we saw, what was the inspiration for that? And then, I'm kind of nerdy because I like to ask about the technical stuff like software and stuff.
I think that's hot. No one ever asked that.
Yeah, it's where the sausage is made, so to speak. So
Good point. So how did I get the idea? Is that my spirit guide Hermes again? Sorry, he's my best friend, so you're gonna hear a lot about him. He's influential. We knew that we needed for 2021, we needed a song to help people through 2021. We knew that if we could give them a psychic song, to predict what was coming and to show that it's going to be okay. We're just going through this phase right now, guys. Okay, hang in there. It's sympathy for the devil. Can you have some, please? That kind of, I hope that makes sense because we're very kind. And I hope that resonates with people who are less kind.
I saw you were inspired by Jason Burmis, right? Was that a video he did?
So when I first put up the video, I stole it. The writing and everything, that was totally stolen from a YouTube video done a couple of years ago. And then I put it up as my video on YouTube at the beginning of 2021 to say, guys, this is our theme for the year. Let's practice sympathy for the devil. And then this year, when it came about again, I was like, wow, that was the best song we could have picked. So I was so impressed with us. I had to put in all the pictures from the past year to kind of finish it out, complete the circle.
Right. And who was the artist on that?
Well, that's the Rolling Stones, Sympathy for the Devil.
Okay.
I didn't know what you meant by artist because I was like, he's got to know who the Rolling Stones are.
Yes, I do. I know who they are. I'm more of a, I was born in the 90s. Like hip hop was like my bread and butter. So if you quiz me on hip hop, I'm good. But yeah.
I'm too Spock, too smart, too Spock.
I like it.
It's funny.
I'm often getting schooled by people older than me on the rock genre, but I'm learning slowly but surely.
Hey man, you got the Beastie Boys. I think that's pretty cool. I think you can handle that.
Yeah, and that was even a little bit before my time. That was, I'm gonna say mid '80s, late '80s. So yeah, but they were
Planetary.
Oh yeah, they're pioneers for sure. The Beastie Boys are, and their music I think still stands the test of time. But going back to other stuff you cover, well, I guess for the video, did you produce that in tandem with another producer, or did you do it alone?
I do all my own stunts, so anything I'm posting, I do steal elements, right? And I use a lot of music that I didn't write and didn't produce because I'm a Joseph Campbell kind of girl. Joseph Campbell, American mythologist, no longer with us, but he taught me about the hero's journey and all the symbology, young too, all the symbology and like the tarot. How can I express my soul without using the soundtrack of my life and all of these artists that I've had in my life, and to come up against a copyright is like a smack in the face. It's like, I'm doing this with a sincere heart, and I never made a dime off of YouTube. It's not like I'm trying to milk the public. I just really wanted to express myself. And so, yeah, that's why I love Rokfin, because I can put anything up that I would deem decent and I don't get in trouble. So I'm all about that. And so I use 3 different programs depending on my mood. I like Hit Film Pro.
Okay.
And there's a silly one called YouTube Movie Maker, but it has great effects.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then the third, I won't even advertise because it works half the time. So.
Okay. Sure. Well, I didn't know about either of those programs. So, that's something I learned just now. But yeah, I agree. It's a sticking point for me too, because you get inspired by this music and it moves you, and you want to use it in your work.
It's what's jogging your mind. It's what's inspiring you. And if you can't say, okay, muses, I like that one, let's use it, then you can't make your videos. For me, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. And that's why I largely have been, not worried about it because I got demonetized quite early. And on top of that, it's like and YouTube's policy used to be different. They used to strike, I think, the video down right away. But now they just give that ad money to the artist, usually, unless the artist wants otherwise, which is usually not the case. But it's like if you're getting censored anyways, why do you care about the copyright strike, which again they're getting the money anyways. So it's
just a way to keep us from expressing ourselves. They call them royals because they got royalties on everything.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. There you go. And you do videos, and then I wanted to ask you about writing, because that's something I like to ask people too, is not just the video production process but the writing process, and if you see similarities or differences between the two for you, and if you like one better than the other too.
They're together for me. It's all about part of the storytelling, right?
Okay, sure.
So the writing goes with the visuals. So I'm having visuals. Like, this is all happening in a movie in my third eye. And then I just download it and do it dexterously with my fingers. Magic.
Sure. And what type of pieces do you like to write? Like shorter articles or books?
Dude, I work completely 100% off of inspiration. Like, even the stuff I do work on cults, like in the John of God and all of that. And I did want to, yes, Jason Burmis did Sympathy for the Predator Class was the name of the new video that you played.
Right. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Sympathy
and
for
that
the
was
Predator
Burmis.
Class. Yep.
Yeah. So Jason Burmis is here on Rokfin, you guys. Where was I? Oh, just the storytelling, and it all happens at once. It's like a download, and then I have to do the slow human thing of making it real.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And your podcast, do you want to talk about that a bit? Because that's, do you have a co-host on that one, or?
I've never had. No, I'm starting to get a co-host. So what inspired me to do the Cosmic Core podcast was my mentor and friend, Mr. Freeman Fly of freemantv.com. He said, hey, I'll give you a spot on my show, like my own little show, basically, and try out the audience. I was like, okay, great. And we did. It was only me and one other guy that ever got invited to do our own shows on the Freeman Network. But it didn't go well. I am picky. I won't just interview people because it's time. I only interview people. Again, I work off inspiration. So I'm never don't think I'm going to be like a regular, get this person in every week, an interviewer, because I'm far more dynamic than that. I don't think I can handle it.
Sure. You're more like a creative type than a logistical, administrative type, shall we say?
I'm an Aquarius, darling. Yes.
We're in the age of Aquarius now, aren't we?
We are. It's going to be my age. What's your sign? I'm so curious.
I am a Pisces, I believe.
Oh,
Pisces.
Sweetheart. If it's through March, right?
Actually, at the end of February, very tail end of February.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So you're a little more level-headed than a normal Pisces.
I would hope so. I like to be level-headed. I try to be, anyways. But your educational background, I like to ask people about that, not because I think it's necessarily important, but just to ask what kind of influence that had, if at all, negative or positive, or what was that like?
All in all, you're just another brick in the wall. So that's Pink Floyd, dude. And that's how school made me feel, like I was, again, in the military, and because I'm an expressive soul. But I felt the authority of it. I felt how the teachers were there, a lot of them, to crap on the kids, basically, and to get their jollies off of being more powerful than the children. And we see that today in the medical and teachers with the COVID-1984 going on. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious now, but I was seeing that. I hope you did too, seeing it as a kid. I quit high school at 16 due to a Great Depression because I had broken up with a man. This is my molestation story. I was 16 and I was heavily seduced by a 28-year-old man. And so that's basically why I quit school. I couldn't go in public without crying. And being that age, I was too embarrassed to cry in public. So that shame, that horrible, horrible shame, is what kept me from finishing school.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm good now, by the way. I'm healed. So don't anybody out there worry. You can heal. I guess that's the point. You can heal no matter what.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you about being a Reiki master. I think I've had one other person on before, but I always like to ask, how did that develop? And explain, if you could explain Reiki too, for those that may not know.
Okay, so let's look at the pronunciation. Ray, like sunshine rays, like ray, and then key, like Reiki. A key to your house. Reiki. And that's what it is. It's a key to a ray, right? When you really understand the word, then you're like, oh, I get it. Because we're channeling really a specific ray of healing energy from, again, upstairs, as I call it. I so through doing the psychic fairs and everything, and being a pagan, I met my Reiki master, Tony A.G., and I didn't have any money because I was living off of what people would pay me for my tarot readings, and I had my own apartment, dude. I didn't have any extra money at all. And he's like, all right, well, you got to work for me, and then I'll give you your attunements, which means we vibrationally attune the body with help from upstairs to be able to channel the Reiki energy easier. But you work for years to be able to channel that energy without a blockage at all. So you start where you start. And so it is a hands-on or just above the body healing, or if you're further along the path, Reiki 2. So there's 3 Reiki levels. There's Reiki Master has a second level, but we won't get into that. So you can send at level 2, you can send energy to the past and the future, which I found very helpful myself. If I know there's a date coming up that I'm going to be anxiety ridden, then I'm sitting with my crystal, because I do it on my crystal and then project it into the future. And understand that a lot of this stuff is intuitive. You're working with higher ups, as I like to call them, because if you say disincarnate spirits, people freak out. You're working with gods and goddesses, healers that are not physically on the planet. And that's what we do. We're antenna. We put our ego life aside to be able to allow the energies of heaven to come through us. And why would I live on this planet having this talent without doing that? I mean, I have to do it. It's too special not to.
Sure. And it's from Japan, I believe, right? Isn't it originally?
Yeah, there's a Reiki myth. And
Okay.
just like many things, I'm a conspiracy theorist. So they say that Dr. Usui that made the Reiki went to college in Chicago. Well, nobody can find that. I've done all my conspiracy research, even on Reiki. So what really got me to know that Reiki is like boom was not only using it. I mean, that'll do it. Really, you have to use it and figure it out yourself. But my guru wanted Reiki, and that's how I met her. She met my Reiki master. So my guru came to me. When I first started doing Reiki, I was like, Buddha, I can't learn Buddhism, please. I want to learn Buddhism. I was on the internet. It was the early days. I'm like, this is crappy. And it sounds like stereo instructions. I can't learn Buddhism this way. And 3 weeks later, I was a Reiki master at this point. 3 weeks later, Guru Devi came into my life through my Reiki master. So everything you know comes as it should.
Yeah, definitely. And what would you give as advice to someone who's thinking about, training in Reiki? Maybe they want to get their own master certification. What would you say and for advice?
I would say it's a calling.
Okay.
So if you're being called, do it immediately. If you're not being called, then I wouldn't do it, just for another. So many people do it just for another thing on their resume.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wrong motivation to have, you'd say.
Especially in this field, which used to be so occulted, right? But now it's all out in the open, as they say.
What does occulted mean to you? How would you define that?
So in the medical term, which you will see in medical school, occulted just means hidden. Occulted pneumonia, they've got to do an x-ray to find the pneumonia you have, right? So to me, that's all snake oil. The occult, funny, I try to be funny. The occult means hidden from muggles, and it's those without eyes or to see and ears to hear, which means they're spiritually blind. Basically, I don't care how stupid a person is or how smart a person is. When God reaches your heart and says, hello, then you hear it. Okay. You just do. There's no denial in that. And I think that God does that to everyone at least once in their life. And you either pick up the phone or you don't. But I think that there's a lot of chances, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
What was the question again? I'm sorry. I think I went off.
No, that was great. I was just wondering what occult meant to you, or
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it means that you are initiated. What it means to me, which isn't in books, you are initiated by heaven to do this work. So it's being also partially. It's like being a psychopomp, which is someone who travels between the worlds to help souls. We help the living and the dead.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there are people that are chosen?
Yes. Yeah, and volunteers, actually. They kind of chose themselves.
Oh.
But yeah, volunteer. Well, in Buddhism, we call it volunteerism. So there's a bodhisattva vow where you come back life after life to help until every sentient being is free from suffering, samsara. And Buddha called this planet samsara, the world of suffering. But that's only a time period. It's not the planet itself. And we're in the deep, dark Kali Yuga right now. And, you're in it with me. You understand that this is the darkest time, and this is as dark as Earth is going to get. And compare it to the Dark Ages. This is faster, but it's worse. And after that, I have beautiful visions for after that. And so there's something to look forward to, guys. You just got to go through hell before you can get to heaven.
What is the Kali Yuga?
It's a cycle. So yugas are cycles of time defined by astrology in the Hindu, not even just the religion. Like, I think it's just normal. Like, we're in the Kali Yuga. It does come from very ancient texts, older than the Bible. And they were master astronomers, astrologers. They still are, actually. They kind of kick our butts here in America. And we go through different cycles. And this cycle is named after Kali. And Kali Ma is, I know her best as the protectress of women. I've worked with her, with women who were getting out of abusive relationships, and she really works with that well. But Kali Ma eats, let's say she just eats everything negative. She'll put you to the test, though. I guess that's what she wants there. She will test your mettle. She will push you to the edge so that you can find out who you truly are. And that's the Kali Yuga.
Would you describe yourself as Buddhist?
Among other things, yes. I'm hermetic, I'm alchemical, I'm just a mercurial girl, Addy.
Okay, I like it. How do those things overlap? Because I think sometimes people would see them as being mutually exclusive, which may or may not be correct. But how do you see them connecting? Wherever you want to take that.
Well, I would send them to Joseph Campbell class and say that there is a thread of truth that runs through the entire tapestry of the universe. And if you find that thread, it's going to take you through every dance class, every music genre, and you're going to find that beautiful truth, golden thread in every one of them. So I follow the thread.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And, he's actually Campbell was a big inspiration to, I think, George Lucas. It was
yes, we wouldn't have Star Wars without Joseph Campbell. I've got a meme that says Joseph Campbell says, "Hey, where's my check?"
Yeah, right. Yeah, especially now that Lucas sold it, which was sad to see. But I guess you can't get too mad at him. But do you see differences in cultures with regards to spirituality? Are there more spiritual cultures and less spiritual cultures, and if so, where do you see ours? Maybe even comparing parts of the United States. I don't know if you want to take it.
I'm surprised at my answer here. Is that the more enslaved a culture, the less spiritual they could possibly be. The more free a culture, the more spiritual they're going to be automatically. That's really the answer. There's no fluff.
What do you think of the past year and a half or so, 2 years? What's it been like for you? 2020, now, I don't know if you're still in Ohio, but...
I'm in Los Angeles for 5 years, dude.
What was it like there, and what's it been like there over the past year and a half?
I haven't been allowed out of the house much. I've been on house arrest, basically, because there's a lot out there that's dangerous, especially here. I live 10 minutes from downtown Los Angeles. And I told people when I moved here 5 years ago that I was coming for the apocalypse. And I was dead serious. And so that, I came here on a mission from God to infiltrate the New Age community and to figure out what it's all about and get back. It always goes back to government, dude. Always. It doesn't matter what you're investigating. It's always going to go back to the same crap people. But I was very concerned that no one was getting into the New Age and saying what was wrong with it, and that it's just another way to control you. With blue chickens. Okay, I said it. I know you don't know about that, but some people do. I
don't know about blue chickens.
I think you're lucky. Count yourself lucky, because you had enough to listen to at the trial. So let's just...
Maybe
that
next
was my
time.
mission. Yeah.
Next time we'll get to it.
Sure. I'd love to do deep dives with you. But that was my mission out here in Los Angeles. It wasn't to become a star, do all this crazy stuff. It was to meet the people, to touch the people. And I actually acted as what we call witness, which you might also do. Interesting. I did this role for God called witness, which means you go into the lion's den and you just observe and you kind of understand that God is with you. And when you're done observing, which took me quite a while, years to finish the observations, then judgment comes. And the judgment came the last time I was at the psychic fair here, the big one. It's called CL or whatever, Conscious Life Expo. Thank you. I predicted Russell Brand would be there because Russell Brand is one of my missions, and he was. So I just want to bring that up for clarity, that I'm not just a crazy girl running off to Hollywood. All of this really matters and makes sense in the narrative. And I got to meet, all the New Age authors and found out that all that glitters is not gold, my friend. These people are all actors. Many failed actors come to the New Age sector. And as you know, many CIA, I think it's the CIA, I don't know, but they get their books written for them, many of them, because it's a part of a narrative. And they're really trying to get the Bigfoot narrative, which I don't see where that could lead to. But we understand that the UFO narrative definitely leads to something, and Project Blue Book or Bluebeam, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's this spirituality, the United Nations, theosophy, all of these things are just as much as a system of control as the government. There's something over all of these things that's controlling it. And that's the source and the root cause. And that's what I call evil. Okay.
Wow. I didn't think we were going to get to the CIA tonight, but that's fantastic. So you're saying that, well, why is that? You said that many actors, or failed actors rather, get into the New Age movement. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, I discovered it by looking up these people's names and going into IMDb, because I've never been a celebrity girl. I've liked celebrities, but I've never been a celebrity girl. Moving out here, I didn't have those blinders, so to speak. So I meet a new person and they don't know what they're talking about, because I'm the Occult Priestess. If you don't know what you're talking about, I'm going to know immediately. Because I'm always looking for friends who know things. So I'm like, oh, what do you know? What do you know? And then I get disappointed. And so when I ran into so many people didn't know what the heck they were talking about, it sounded like a script. I went to Internet Movie Database and looked up their names.
Okay, so you noticed a correlation there, or a relationship.
There's so many of them that are past actors, and some of them even New Age authors on their own biographies, just on the side of Google, says that they're actors.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a lot of videos about this guy, so check it out from a couple years ago.
Okay. Yeah, but why do you think that is? You think they're
all part of the big satanic club that we're not in. They've all sold out one way or another, just like the music people. These talents are sellouts. They're not really talented at all.
And in this context, the New Age movement, you think
I'm talking about music. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I understand what you're saying. But in the context of New Age movement, do you think that's because they're getting planted there, like as infiltrators of some sort?
Definitely, because because I'm an antique dude. When I started out, it was just all the hippy dippy and the old women who were reverends doing readings, and it was just all very colloquial, folk type of psychic fairs. And then the frickin' remote viewers, the military, all of these guys started coming in. I'm like, holy shit, this is a sacred temple. I mean, that was to me. I remember my past lives and I understand what sacred is. And when I saw a military man in my sacred temple, I flipped out. And I didn't understand what the hell a murderer, a horrible, horrible warrior was doing in my beautiful temple. I mean, he might as well have been shooting people right in front of me. But he was there to talk about remote viewing, which is the worst thing, Scar. I'm going to just go off. It's the worst thing ever. So Theosophy. You might have heard of Blavatsky.
I have. Could you explain both of those terms?
So Helena Blavatsky is one of the founders of Theosophy, and somehow, and I think Jason Burmis knows, they're connected to the United States. Like Theosophy made the United Nations. The United Nations is supposed to be like that Star Trek thing, whatever that is.
I'm a Star Wars guy.
Okay, cool.
I'm sure someone in the audience
Council
knows.
or some shit like that.
Sure,
and in fact,
sure.
there's a lot of Galactic Council crap out there, even from 10 years ago, that is planted. And so we're going back to Theosophy, the United Nations. These Theosophists made a practice, and you can see this on Dark Journalist. They made a practice of gathering 9-year-old girls and making them psychic spies, which means psychically abusing them and sending their souls off to remote view so that they could spy and win wars and things like that. And that's only gotten worse since then. I haven't read about it because they keep it quiet. Maybe it turned into MK Ultra. Maybe it turned into these other things. But to send a child out to remote view is like murdering a soul. It's very terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Lots of stuff there. And you mentioned another journalist. What are some other, writers, content creators, investigators, independent media or independent journalists that you like, whose work you respect, or maybe you want people to check out as resources?
So Ryan Cashton, The Last American Vagabond, of course. I love Grand Theft World with Richard Grove. Those guys are great, and they do a Sunday night show that is not to be missed on Rokfin. I love so many people. There's Whitney Webb. Dabu 7 is new to Rokfin. Dabu 7, shout out. Woo! So he's new to Rokfin. I could go on forever, but I'm very supportive of community, and I'm on Twitter at Occult Priestess, and that's where I'm always tweeting out the most awesome people.
Okay, excellent. And that link is in the description box if people want to check that out. What about movies and or documentaries? Could be either or that you like, you found influential. Can you name any? Yeah,
the Rocky Horror Picture Show was my first acting, and I did that for 4 years or something. Gosh, there's some mind-bending movies, throughout your life. Wuthering Heights. I like the book and the movie, the original Wuthering Heights. I'm an old-fashioned girl. My favorite artist, I'd like to say, is Kate Bush. Kate Bush of England.
Okay, I saw that. I think that was in your Twitter bio.
More than likely. That's how much I love her.
Yeah, who is that, and why is she so influential on you?
She's extremely esoteric. It's very hard, or it used to be very hard to find anyone who even knew who she was here in the United States. She's pretty big over there in England. She's it's like normal to know who she is, but she's from the 70s, the 80s. She still does music, and of course, to me, she's the rock star on the planet. Goddess Kate Bush, but she's very, very esoteric and symbolic, and so she's doing it the way I can understand her.
Okay. So she's primarily a musician?
Yes. Yeah. Singer, songwriter, producer. She does her own films. I mean, the little thing you gave me at the beginning, that was a little bit more like Kate Bush. But I would like to produce my own films. I've had knowledge that I might become a director one day. So that's really sweet. So thank you.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No problem. I always like to give people a good intro and an accurate one too. So yeah, thanks for correcting me on that. I put documentary film actress. Is that a little more accurate?
Well, I wasn't acting.
Okay.
That's what a documentary is, right? That's the thing when I came out here, they're like, oh, what movies are you in? I'm like, non-fucking fiction. Excuse my French.
Sure. No, you're good. Well, let's get into it then. What was, if you want to talk about the documentary a bit, how it came about and what it's about.
Great. So it's called, The Nightmare. And I've done two. I've done The Hat Man and The Nightmare, but The Nightmare was really big. And it was my first. I did a show with a man called Ted Torbich. We did about a 3-hour show just on sleep paralysis. It was my most intense show I'd done to that point. And I didn't even know. I felt like I was on the spot. Like, okay, your whole life matters right now. This is it. That's the kind of interview it was. And he took me through my entire sleep paralysis. And then maybe a month, 2 months later, the director himself, Rodney Asher, got a hold of me and said, "You're my new nightmare girl," because he just needed one more person. And he's like, "I can't do the film without you. I need your story." I'm like, "Great." And he's like, "So we're gonna come to your house?" And I'm like, "No, I want to come to Hollywood. I've wanted to come to Hollywood since I was 6 years old. I don't want you coming to my lame ass house, my lame ass neighborhood. I want to come out there." And he's like, "Well, we'll see." And I was like, we're not going to see. And so I looked up and tried to find a place where we could film out here, even though I'm not from here, but my cousin was here. So I was like looking around, and I found a lady who would volunteer her home. They were going to pay her anyway. And so I found the place, and they're like, "Okay, well then we're just going to fly you out instead of flying 6 people all the way out there." I was like, "Yes." And so I get to stay 2 weeks here in LA. The shoot took maybe 3 hours at most. It wasn't much at all, but Rodney was very kind. He looks like Kubrick, which is really weird. And I gave him a tarot reading, and that was neat. But when the movie came out, it was all Sundance and fancy stuff. And I was just at home on my computer on Twitter like, this is really neat. But then when I came out to LA, when I moved, that's when I got to do some things with Rodney. We got to do some events together, and that was super fun.
Okay.
Hopefully training for the future.
Excellent. And what was the? Can you go into the documentary a bit and what it was about, and how your part played in it?
Okay, there were 7 people interviewed in the documentary. The director, Rodney Asher, had sleep paralysis before, and that's how I knew I could trust him with the story, because I'm like, dude, this is horrifying. It's like child molestation. It's really a bad topic. And he's like, "No, I'm sensitive. I totally get that." We told our stories, all 7 of us. And near the end of the film, a couple of the boys had really graphic issues. And I've never had that happen. Whatever happened to those boys at the end of the film. But I basically just told my story. It's not that complicated. I just, said that the door to hell was open in my dream time.
Okay. So it was basically the relaying anecdotally of the subjective experience of sleep paralysis, whereby you're basically awake, but your body hasn't shut off its paralyzing kind of function that happens when you're in deep sleep.
Yeah, you can't move.
Your tendency to hallucinate is extremely heightened, right? Where you can hear and see things. And
I disagree with the word.
Okay, yeah. Well,
on principle, that's all.
No, yeah. Let's get into this. Yeah, what do you mean?
That you're actually aware of another dimension. You're not tripping on thinking there might be another dimension, because you wouldn't be scared. The thing about sleep paralysis is that it turns your hair white. It's a fear like I've never known another earthly fear, because it's an unearthly fear, basically. And it's the realm of the dead. So I became aware of that because I figured it out. I mean, I needed to go up to the upper realms, which I call heaven, to replenish my soul so that I could continue my life here, I needed to go to heaven to get light to come back so that I could live, because I wasn't getting light here. But in order to do that, I had to go through the very bad neighborhood of hell. And the only part I remembered was the hell part.
Did you, what did you see? Because I've actually had this, it wasn't that long of like an episode, I guess, but I've had sleep paralysis a couple times. A few times where I've heard things, like one time I heard somebody calling my name. And that was like, it's so weird because it's so, I don't know, because for me, it's like it just felt so real, and like you can't move and get up and see who's calling to you, and then you could, and I looked and nobody was there, right? And then another time it was, I think, just visual, really. It's like maybe out of the corner of my eye. And then one time I was actually in school, and I didn't see or hear anything, but I was awake and I couldn't move, so I was like on my desk, sleeping in, I think it was chemistry class. It was kind of funny, but
that has never happened to me in public. Wow.
Yeah.
Wrong. Yeah, I assume these are our ancestors. They're demons, but I assume we're related to them. Oh,
wow. Okay. Sure. Yeah, it was, where was I? And I was traveling on at least one of those, one of the more vivid experiences. But yeah, it's never been an experience I've enjoyed, for sure. I noticed it happens when I'm sleeping on my back more. Have you noticed that or no?
Yeah, people do. People do notice that. It's anything that's keeping you from breathing well is going to help them basically get to you. So I used to sleep on 3 pillows as a child. Like, I was very angled. It still happens.
Sure. Okay. Excellent. And just wrapping up here, Korinne, where can people find your work, and what projects are you working on now, or what can people look for you in the future?
Okay. Thank you, Addy, for having me on your PI show. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah.
And I am Korinne Wilson, occultpriestess.com, at Occult Priestess on Twitter. And I'm on Getter now, at Occult Priestess, Getter.
Oh, same. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, yeah. I think I just followed you last night.
Oh, nice. I'll have to follow you back. Yeah. Addy Adds on Getter. Getter.
Yeah. So my next I've got 2 projects. I've got a big dream project I'd like to do so that we can help everybody have better nights, more magical nights, special nights. But also I am planning out, even though it came from inspiration, this is going to take a lot of planning, recovery series, emotional recovery from addiction, all recovery, because I think that's what we need most. If some of us are going to go home soon, like die, these are the things you need to take care of. These are putting your things in order. If you haven't healed from your childhood, and if you're still dealing with addictions and serious problems in that area, like mental, emotional, spiritual problems, even spiritual warfare, guys, this is the same part of recovery. So I'm going to be using John Bradshaw, who's a great recovery artist, and other video teachers. But I've been through it myself. I'm a 12-step girl. I was codependent. I was never a drinker or an alcoholic, but I took my psychic health serious enough that codependency was bad enough to send me into recovery. And I think it should be for anyone, honestly. Recovery itself is a 12-step based program, which comes from Bill Wilson, but that's also Aleister Crowley, you guys. This is old ritual path working. I figured that out and understood that's why it works so well for me, because I'm a path working kind of girl. It's an old way of knowing things, getting to know things. And so that's the next really big project I'd like everyone to heal.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you, Korinne. And as I said before, I'd love to do it sometime in the future. People want to watch this or rewatch it, again, it's going to be on Rokfin.com/Addy Adds, and then the audio version will be available anywhere a podcast can be listened to. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Stay frosty, and we'll see everybody next time.
Hello, everyone in the Rokfin chat. I wanted to do some shout outs before we end the stream this evening. And so I'm going through the chat over here. And I want to say hi to Lori. And we had a tipper, very big tip. I want to thank Lori for that. That is glorious. The more you support me, the more I can do this without feeling guilty, really, that I'm doing so much for nothing. So thank you. I appreciate that. And Crabapple, I want to say hello to Crabapple. She follows me on Twitter, and she was liking the tweets that I sent out about the stream today. So thank you very much for that. Sorry. We had Eric Alexander, and we also had a lot of chatting going on with Chelsea. And we all decided that we love crystals and that we'd like to do a live stream about crystals. And so if you guys are interested in that, please email me, occultpriestess@gmail.com, if you'd like to add a few pictures of your favorite crystals and maybe a little story to go with it. That's kind of how I'd like to share that. If you'd like to come on stream, consider it. We'll see what we can do. But I love community, and I think that's what you guys will understand about me. So since I've got on Rokfin myself, thank you, Jason Burmis, I've helped to add 3 other awesome Rokfinners. Number 1 was Freeman Fly. And so I thank him very much for coming over to Rokfin when I asked him to. And then we had a Dabu 7 who had an issue with his password, couldn't find it. So I hooked him up with the right people. And now Dabu 7 is on Rokfin. And then last but not least, in fact, go look at his tips. It's driving me wild. I helped get David Knight on Rokfin. And you might have known him back in the day from Alex Jones. But I started listening to his independent show. I didn't really hear him on Alex much. And he blew my mind, right? David Knight comes off as moral, truthful, and just like a warm-hearted man. There's not a lot of warm-heartedness out there. So I helped him get on the Rokfin. And so I'm really excited to be a part of this community. And that's what I'm trying to call it, is a community. And so thank you, Pat. Also, Pat is known as Elf over on Twitter. And I'm expecting a package from him soon, which is a new crystal. And so that'll be very interesting. And maybe we can show it off during that live stream. And I want to thank again Addy Adds for inviting me onto his show. And hopefully we'll be doing more. We'll do some deep dives with him. Okay, so I'm going to end the stream now and wish everyone a beautiful Saturday night. And I hope you all have really good dreams tonight. And I thank you for showing up to my stream. And tip if you can. If you liked it, please tip. Thank you so much. Good evening.